Welcome back to the Deep Dive, everybody. Today we're taking a look at something that might seem pretty simple on the surface, Zentangle. But trust me, there's a whole fascinating layer underneath when we start talking about these hidden strings. We'll see how this maybe unexpected concept can actually unlock a lot of creative flow and potential for you.
Yeah, absolutely. And just to kind of set the stage for everyone, all of this is coming straight from a specific Zentangle lesson. So all these insights we're going to unpack today are rooted in, the real techniques and philosophy of the method.
Right. And our mission today is to help you understand what these hidden strings are all about. Like, why are they so important to Zentangle?
Yeah.
And the most important thing, how they could actually help you be more creative and make even more beautiful things. Like, have you ever felt restricted by something, held back, but then realized that those boundaries actually sparked some amazing new ideas?
Well, that's kind of what we're getting at here. This technique is all about how these seemingly limiting lines can actually set your imagination free. So let's get into it. What's the story behind these hidden strings? Where did they even come from?
Well, we have to go back to the very beginning of Zentangle, like way back. It's actually in the book of Zentangle. There's this great story about Maria, one of the creators. She was drawing patterns over and over again inside of this big decorative letter.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, and what's so cool to think about is that the shape of the letter, it was like a natural stopping point for her. She didn't have to keep deciding, okay, when do I stop? The letter kind of told her, this is where you stop. It took away that decision, right? So she could just focus on drawing and not have to worry about, what next? What next? All the time.
Exactly. And she was having this almost meditative dreamlike experience while she was doing it, which ended up being like a huge light bulb moment for the creators of Zentangle. They realized how powerful it was to have these defined spaces, these boundaries, because they can really help you focus. And that's what led them to deliberately introducing constraints in the form of strings to make the Zentangle method even more, complete, accessible for anyone to pick up.
I love that, the idea of constraints actually giving you more freedom. It's like a paradox.
Right. It's kind of counterintuitive, isn't it?
It is. It is. So tell me more about this whole elegance of boundaries thing in Zentangle.
So what Zentangle does so brilliantly is it actually reduces the number of decisions you have to make right from the start. When you're just starting out, it's like, think about it. You start with a border and then you add these hidden strings and it just takes away so much potential for overthinking.
It's like, what kind of paper should I use? Should I use color? All that stuff.
Exactly. You're not worrying about that. Initially, it's just black ink on white paper. And you don't have to worry about which strokes to use or where to even begin or when it's finished. And the big one, you don't have to decide on a subject. You're not trying to draw a specific thing.
You're just in the flow. You're
Yeah.
just creating. So by taking away all those choices, it kind of opens up your mind to just focus on the actual process, right?
Yes, exactly. It's like by reducing all that cognitive load, all that thinking, you can just be present in the moment, in each stroke. And it lets you trust the process, let your creativity emerge naturally without getting all stuck in your head, overthinking everything.
It reminds me of that feeling when you're learning something new and you just want to get it, You don't want to be overwhelmed. And this is such a light bulb moment, realizing that these simple lines are actually doing so much to make that happen.
They really are.
Okay, so we've talked about why they exist, why boundaries are good, but for someone who's just starting out, what are they? What are these hidden strings exactly?
Okay, so in Zentangle, these hidden strings are basically light pencil lines that you draw inside the border of your tile. You've already got your border, right? And then you're adding these lines. It's like you're dividing up the space.
So it's like making little neighborhoods on your tile for your patterns to live in.
I love that. That's a great way to think about it. Yeah, so they basically divide the tile into different sections, and each section becomes a space for you to fill with a pattern. So they're enclosing the patterns, supporting them, guiding the flow of your artwork.
And I remember the lesson mentioning that they're not planned out, right?
Yeah.
You're not supposed to overthink it.
No, not at all. The key is to draw them quickly, kind of randomly, loosely, just letting your hand move. You can use curved lines, straight lines, whatever feels right. And this is the opposite of how you'll draw the patterns later, which are more deliberate and structured.
So it's almost like a really freeing start, and then you get more focused as you go.
Yeah, exactly. And because they're so loose and unplanned, you don't get that feeling of, oh, I need to make it perfect, you know? You just let go and trust that it'll all come together.
Makes sense. Okay, so they're light pencil lines, you make sections. But why hidden strings? Is there something more to that name? Like, is there a story there?
There is, and this is where Rick's childhood memory comes in. He talks about making rock candy with his grandmother, and it's a really cool analogy. They would, dissolve tons of sugar in hot water, and then they'd hang a string in the solution. And as it cooled, sugar crystals would form all around that string. And eventually, the string itself might not be visible anymore, but it was obvious that it was there because it shaped the whole piece of rock candy.
Oh, I get it now. It's like the invisible framework for something beautiful to grow around.
Yes, exactly. And in Zentangle, we call these lines hidden strings because they do the same thing. Your patterns are like those sugar crystals forming within and around those lines. And then as you fill in the sections with ink, the pencil lines kind of fade away visually, but you can still see their influence in how the whole composition comes together.
That's so cool. So why pencil specifically? Why not just ink the strings right from the start? Like, if they're so important, why not make them permanent?
That's a great question, and the answer is all about flexibility. Pencil gives you so much freedom to adjust as you go. As you're drawing your patterns, the pencil lines can be easily covered up by your pen. Or if you get an idea and want to change things up, you can just ignore a section of the string completely.
It's like a safety net, right?
Yeah.
You're not stuck with what you initially drew.
Yeah, exactly. And if you used ink for the strings, those lines would be there forever, really prominent in the final piece. And that would create a completely different look and feel. But the way the pencil lines kind of disappear as you add your patterns, it just adds to the overall harmony of the artwork.
It's like the scaffolding they use when they're building a building.
Right.
It's essential at first, but then it comes down, and all you see is the finished structure.
I like that, yeah.
So the lesson does say that drawing these hidden strings can feel a little weird or tricky at first. Why do you think that is? Like, why do people sometimes struggle with that?
Well, I think part of it is that we're so used to having boundaries set for us, think about coloring books or even just life in general. We're often told where the lines are, not really encouraged to make our own.
Right. We're not used to setting our own limits. It's like someone else is always doing that for us.
Exactly. And so when it comes to something like Zentangle, where you have this freedom to create your own boundaries, it can feel kind of unfamiliar. And then there's this idea that there must be a right way to do it, so people hesitate. They're looking for a template or a rule to follow instead of realizing that any shape is fine.
And I bet it also feels different from how you draw the patterns, which are more precise, right? It's like strings are so loose and free-flowing.
Yeah, that's another thing. The looseness can feel almost counterintuitive, especially if
No.
you like things to be neat and organized. But the key is to just practice, Find what feels good to you. The lesson really emphasizes that it's your own personal approach that matters.
Okay, so how do you actually draw a hidden string? Walk us through it.
So you start with those basic Zentangle steps, right? Take a moment for gratitude, put your 4 dots down, connect them to make your border, and then once you have that border, it's time for the string.
This is where the no planning part comes in, right?
Yeah, you just go for it. Draw quickly, spontaneously. Don't try to overthink it or picture the final result. Just let your hand move and make some divisions within that border. And the lesson even says that as you get more comfortable, you can try strings that go beyond the border or don't even have a border at all.
Wow, okay. And there were some different types of strings you mentioned earlier, like different shapes and stuff.
Yes, it suggests trying things like a single curved line that goes all over the tile, or using straight lines to make more geometric sections. You can try multiple curved lines that intersect, or straight lines going in different directions. And of course, you can combine curved and straight lines too. It's all about experimenting.
So it's like making a little roadmap for your patterns to follow.
Yes, exactly.
Okay, so now let's talk about the power of these strings. Like, why are they so effective? We know what they are, we know how to draw them, but what makes them so special?
Well, the big thing is that any string you draw will work. Because remember, you can always adjust as you go. If a pattern needs more space, you can merge sections together. You can change the boundaries, or even leave sections blank.
So they're really more like suggestions than rules.
Right, they're there to guide you, not to restrict you. The real magic, the feeling of security and inspiration, comes from just having the string there on the tile, not from its exact shape or placement. As you start drawing, you'll see how those pencil lines just kind of fade into the background.
And you can always extend your patterns beyond the string if you want to, right?
Yes, absolutely. And the lesson talks about how, as you gain confidence, you'll realize You can create these boundaries and then push past them, go beyond them if an idea takes you there.
So it's about learning to trust yourself, learning to let your creativity flow, even if it means going outside the lines a little bit.
Yeah, I love that. And the lesson even compares the strings to a jump rope, which I think is a really great analogy. Like, you don't actually need the rope to jump, but having it there gives you a reference point, something to play with, something to push off of. The strings are kind of like that for your patterns.
It's amazing to think that something so simple, just a light pencil line, can have such a big impact on the creative process.
It really is.
Okay, so to sum things up for everyone, we've learned about this elegance of boundaries and how having some constraints can actually boost creativity. We talked about why pencil's the best tool for the strings because it gives you that flexibility and that cool disappearing effect. We learned about the inspiration behind the idea, that story about Maria and the letter, and that awesome rock candy analogy that explains the name hidden strings. And we walked through how to actually draw them quickly, spontaneously, no overthinking.
And the lesson also has some great exercises to help you put all of this into practice.
Yes, like that first one, merging. That's where you look at the sections you've created with your strings, and you can choose to ignore a line and merge two sections together. Then you fill that bigger space with the single pattern, and you can really see how that original line disappears.
And then there's stepping beyond the grid. That one encourages you to draw your patterns so that they extend past the lines of your strings. It's about playing with those boundaries. And the lesson even addresses the question of, like, why even have the strings if you can go beyond them?
And the answer is brilliant.
Yeah.
Because guidelines are there to support your patterns, but also invite you to explore beyond them. First, you need a fence to jump over it.
Exactly. It's about having something to interact with, something to push against. You'll notice that a lot of Zentangle patterns are meant to go beyond the lines anyway. It creates that sense of movement and flow.
It's like a trellis with plants growing on it. You don't even see the trellis anymore, just the beautiful plants.
Yes, perfect analogy.
So, I think the takeaway here is that Zentangle gives you the safe space to experiment, to safely explore beyond the boundaries, as the lesson says. And that's something we don't always have in our everyday lives.
It's so true. And it teaches you to trust your instincts and follow your creativity, even if it means going off the path a little bit.
So here's something for you to think about.
Yeah.
Are there any other areas in your life where having some strings, some boundaries, might actually help you be more creative or feel more free? What fences could you try jumping over? You might be surprised by what you find on the other side. So as you go about your day, think about what invisible strings might be shaping your own creative journey. What would happen if you drew some new ones? Thanks for joining us for another Duck Dive. We'll see you next time.